All right, Stace, do you like Kool-Aid?
I do like me some Kool-Aid now. So, two things. First, Sace is a nickname. So, Papa Sace, and Madeline likes to call me that. She didn't know what to call me, so
Well, it
because
feels disrespectful to say Andy.
right. Well, I appreciate that, but at the same time, she calls me Sace. So, and then secondly, why are we talking about Kool-Aid right now? I don't drink Kool-Aid now, but I did drink a lot of Kool-Aid growing up. So, but we talked about Kool-Aid during the episode, and Andrew Dunlap, who was our guest, talked quite a bit about Kool-Aid and how he drank the Kool-Aid. So, do you know what that phrase means, by the way?
No, I don't. But
Yeah.
it kind of context-wise, it's like, I feel like it's like I'm guilty or like I'm repeating this thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I think it comes from like a cult situation where these people drank this Kool-Aid that I believe it was poisoned, but they all drank the Kool-Aid cult.
Out of peer pressure.
Out of peer pressure or being a part of this cult. And so it comes synonymous with being a part of a cult. So there's the etymology of the word. Etymology is bugs. So
Well, that works too.
yeah. But anyway, so there's the meaning of the word. I think that's not my specialty, but my specialty is the AEC industry. And we talked with Andrew Dunlap today. There was a lot of good things about it. What did you like about it?
I liked how he phrased it in that he doesn't want to necessarily go after every job, but that what kind of product do I want to choose? And then how he said that other people in this industry are not necessarily competitors, but we do like, not necessarily our enemies, but we do like to compete with our friends.
Yeah.
So that was interesting.
Yeah, so there's a difference between competition. I mean, I've got competition, and we definitely compete on projects, but we also can go and meet with them and talk to them and connect. So, and it makes us better, right, in some ways. So that was an interesting, but really I appreciated a lot about Andrew. You could tell the idea of drinking the Kool-Aid, which is he bought into what his company is about, right? And his company has a real vision. So I definitely resonated with that and appreciated that a lot. That's what we're really about with the Enhanced podcast. Is what is your vision? What are you about? And that drew him to the company he's at. And in fact, he is somebody. Another thing we learned was how to go from being a banker to being a contractor, right? So if you're a banker and you want to be a contractor, this episode might help you learn how to do that, because what we found is, for example, one thing that, and I say that a little bit tongue in cheek because Andrew is not down in the weeds, as it were, with regard to like building and doing estimating or project management, but he is involved in it enough to understand what's going on. But one of the skills that he had brought in from his banking background was like problem solving. So, and I can appreciate that as an engineer. So those are a few things that I resonated with, or that resonated with me, and I appreciated and enjoyed about the show. Was there anything else you wanted to add?
I think that was all I had for commentary for this episode.
Okay, awesome. Well, and also just a little bit of background of Andrew Dunlap. He's with Shoreline Construction. They're in Bluffton, South Carolina. He's the director of business development there. And so that's basically what our episode is about today. My name is Andy Richardson. I'm a structural engineer. I've been doing this 26 years. I'm still learning so much about the AEC industry. And at the Enhanced podcast, we're all about learning the why of AEC professionals so that you can learn your why. All right, let's jump to the intro.
Welcome to Enhance, an AEC podcast where we learn the why behind AEC professionals so that you can learn your why.
Well, welcome to the Enhanced podcast, Andrew. So
thanks for having me, by the way.
Yeah, definitely glad to have you on. We've tried to get this going a few times, but hey, we're here now, and yeah, it's President's Day weekend. Did you have any good President's Day activities?
I did. I actually, yesterday I was traveling back from seeing my girlfriend's family in Jackson, Mississippi, and I was flying Southwest, so I flew from Jackson to Baltimore, but I had an unusual like 4-hour layover, and then it got delayed again. So I ended up having about 6 hours of time to kill.
Okay.
And so, funny enough, one of my Young Life students that graduated last year, he's at the Naval Academy. And so I kind of sent him some texts, and we planned out a trip to where when I landed in Baltimore, I got to come see him in Annapolis, and he showed me around the Naval Academy. And so it was really cool. It was just such a neat town and a really, really cool place. So much history, and it's a really, 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 really cool place.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, we actually have a young man that went to Community Bible Church where we go to church, and he's up there
Yeah, really?
right now, which I guess is somewhat not rare, but I mean, not a lot
Yeah.
of people go to the
Yeah.
Naval Academy.
Yeah,
but-
it's certainly an honor, and it's I was telling him yesterday, I was like, I'm sure he's in his plebe year,
Mhm.
so he's probably ready for it to be finished. But it's just, I was encouraging him, took him to dinner, and I just said, you'll begin to realize that this is not everyone's afforded the same opportunity. Now, granted, you earn it by being here and the things that you're doing, and obviously this year has probably been tough, but to hear the stories of people that have gone to the Naval Academy and the things that they're doing now, it's special. So it's cool to encourage them and just to talk through all the doors that will open for him one day.
Yeah, and
being there.
it sounds like you had a pretty good relationship with him
Mm.
through Young Life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so that was significant that you took the time to spend with him and go check it out.
Yeah.
So how long have you been doing Young Life?
Yeah, so when I moved to Bluffton about a little over 3 years ago, I got involved with it. I did it as when I was in high school, and had a big impact on my life. And so when I realized that Young Life was going on here, I wanted to get involved pretty early on. And so I've been fortunate enough to be a volunteer leader there for almost 3 years now.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Who's the leader here?
Yeah, so our area director is a woman named Lee Whitaker.
Okay.
So, and then it's awesome because north and south of the Broad, we don't get to do as much with the students don't. We're not doing big events with south of the Broad high schools and north of the Broad high schools, but I've gotten to know some of the guys on staff over here, and they've got a great team over here. So yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, I mean, I guess go ahead and jump into some of the
Sure.
podcast
Yeah.
aspects. I mean, that's definitely interesting as far as the Young Life and how you're just serving the community. Is that something that Shoreline does as well? Is like it ties into what the vision or mission of Shoreline Construction as well?
Sure.
Or?
Yeah, it's a great question. So Shoreline is definitely pushes us to be involved in the community. It doesn't serve us well for us to be simply a transactional organization, and so I think there's been a lot of opportunities to serve our community, and Young Life just happens to be a vehicle in which I get to serve some of the the high school students over in Bluffton. So like I said, I'm extremely grateful to be able to volunteer. And one of the things that I realized early on is when I moved here, there's some titans here. I mean, you've had some on the podcast, especially even in the faith too, that give their time to young guys like me and to other organizations. And so I was blessed to be the recipient of a lot of time from some of those men.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew early on that I wanted to then give back to something else. And so Shoreline shares the same sentiment, and that we love to work with a lot of partners there. We've worked with each month or each quarter, I'd say, we pick a project that we're going to do. So we've Bluffton Self-Help was one that we did recently, where we've done some work for them, and so we like to pick a project or something to give back each quarter and really pour back into the community.
Yeah, that's awesome that
Mhm.
you're able to do that. I mean, we get to where we have to make decisions about that too.
Yeah.
How do we give back?
Sure.
Because the title of the podcast, Enhance,
Mhm.
and the idea behind that is, how are you enhancing the world around
Yeah.
you, right? And so it sounds like you're doing a lot of that individually and through
Mhm.
Shoreline. We have to make decisions at 2096 as well. Like, okay, well, how do we give back? Obviously, there's internal ways you can do that.
Sure.
So through the company, like mentorship
Mhm.
and growing and leading your company and leading your team, you can give it back externally through some of the things you're talking
Mhm.
about, and
Yeah.
individually as well, right? So what are some ways that Shoreline does that internally, like
Sure.
through the company?
That is a great question and a great point. Well, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, right?
Yeah.
So this whole podcast will be me talking highly of Shoreline, but I do believe the words that I'm saying. Shoreline is, I've worked with a couple of companies since I graduated college, and Shoreline is very unique in the way that they pour into their staff and their employees. Numerous amounts of ways. Chris is an incredibly generous person. Chris Dalzell, who owns the firm, him and his wife Katie, are very generous with their time, but also their ability to pour back into us. So there's things that we do as a staff that when we meet, once a month as a full team. So our commercial division, our residential division, and our furniture, so the whole company's together. And we have a thing called Life 101, where Chris will bring in the past, he brings insurance guy in, talk through insurance, or maybe it's talking about 401ks. So there's several things that Chris realizes, our people come first, right? Taking care of your own people, starting there is certainly a good place to start. And I feel that you have people on our team that have been with Shoreline for a very long time, and I believe that that's probably one of the reasons why, is that Chris and our leadership team have poured back into our team tenfold. So, yeah.
It sounds like building the business, building things
Mm-hmm.
is obviously what we do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you guys are out there building it.
Yeah.
We're designing it.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you guys are spending a lot of time on building the business
Mhm.
and building the people,
Sure.
building them up. So what are some other things, like that's building the leadership principles
Yeah.
and things that you've mentioned.
Mhm.
So that's really important. But what, as far as the vision of the company, is there any vision or things like that you guys work on to help guide you?
Yeah, certainly. So I think the cool piece that really attracted me to Shoreline was this vision statement and principles that are easily transferable to our everyday life, right? So at Shoreline, our mission is we design, build, and deliver peace of mind. I don't know about you, but there's definitely areas of my life when sometimes delivering peace of mind, whether it's to a partner or it's to in relationships, that can be tough sometimes, right? And so on top of that, with our principles of our company, we have a big emphasis on like walking through frequently, like, what does this mean? I brought this in today. This is something that's it's something that we use for work, but you can use this in your life. We call this DPOM and flip. So DPOM, deliver peace of mind.
Okay.
And then flip is our core values. So fiscal responsibility, live by principle, intentional relationships, and I'm blanking on the last one, the P. Yeah.
Process driven.
Process driven, yeah.
Yeah.
And so that I've used these principles for things in my life. So this DPOM and flip, there's certainly been times when something frustrating or some conflict came about, and being able to pause and ask myself, is whatever I'm about to communicate, is this going to deliver peace of mind? And then also run the things that I'm about to communicate through those principles. It certainly has helped with my relationship with my girlfriend.
Okay.
It's helped with relationships with clients. So it's been cool to see how there are things that Shoreline has built within the mission and the values that are certainly applicable outside of the 8 to 5.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Let me show this
Yeah.
to the audience here. So there's the. I don't know if I gave away any secrets or anything.
No. We openly communicate this. I think about one of the cool things that we do at Shoreline is, and I'm going to keep saying that again. It's going to be funny to watch this back and say how many times I said the cool things that we do at Shoreline. Again, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, but I really love the last one, which I was forgetting to think of, is process driven.
Mm-hmm.
And John, our COO, if you will, he likes talking about this one a lot. And I think that in the last year, we've really put an emphasis on being a process driven company. One, the building block of why process is good is by creating something, a process that you can follow. We like to think of it as like we're providing a predictable outcome, right? If you do something over and over and over again, likely you're going to get a similar result, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's been really cool for us to apply that to what separates us from any other general contractor, is that we've created thousands of processes of things, the most simple things that we do and some of the most challenging things that we do. We've put pen to paper and written down process. And so when we're going through these things, we like to make sure that we're following our process. Mm-hmm. That way we can ensure too to our clients is that we've done this before. We know the outcome that we're going to get. So,
yeah, I mean, this thing, this is pretty cool because I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, I guess, too. But I really like a lot of it. Number one, I mean, you have this card, you're using it, mm-hmm. because it makes me think, okay, a lot of these processes, a lot of times we call it I&I, impediments and innovation.
Yeah.
And so
I like that.
What I mean by that is a lot of times an impediment has happened, mm-hmm. right? Or that's a fancy word of a hold up or something went wrong, right? Sure. In construction, a lot goes wrong, right? Yeah. And relationships, a lot goes wrong. Yeah. And in business development, a lot can go wrong. Yeah. So, and on podcasts, a lot can go wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
So I like that you brought this because something happened at some point, right, that said, we need a card that we can bring with us. So can you talk about that? Like, did something happen that somebody said, hey, we need a card?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I it's probably long before my time. So I probably can speak to 100 times when I've used it, but I'm sure there's probably a couple stories that led to the making of this card. One thing in particular we like to do is on my laptop, I have one taped on my laptop.
Wow.
As you know, there's throughout the day, email can rule our lives. And I think that that's one of the ones that, not just in our industry, across any workplace, is when email and problems come at you quick, getting frustrated and getting maybe consumed with an emotional response is sometimes more likely than we'd like it to be.
Yeah.
And so I have this on my computer. So when something frustrating happens, and like you mentioned, things that are just stuff happens in construction, it's cool to be able to have it right there, right, inches away from, me delivering, a message. And so I'm sure that's, I know that I'm not the only person at the company's got theirs on their keyboard or on their laptop. But so that doesn't really answer your question, but I'm sure there is a story. I'll have to find out for you.
Okay, yeah, and I that might be your curveball. I didn't actually give you a curveball today, but that's a good curveball, I guess.
No, I'll have to find that out for you.
So, but nonetheless, it doesn't necessarily matter because it's obviously helping, right? Like it's helping me just thinking, okay, pause before you speak, right? I mean, how many times would that help us in construction, relationships, business development?
Yeah.
I mean, and so many other things. Another aspect of this is the flip.
Yeah.
So there's an interesting connection that I was going to bring up because you guys, I believe, use I don't know if you at some point use a business coach.
Yeah, we do.
Scott Beebe.
Scott Beebe. Yeah.
So so one of the guys, I was in that coaching group.
Yeah.
At one point.
That's awesome.
So and I'm not any currently, but so I know Scott Beebe from that. But one of the guys that was in the coaching group back 10 years ago, his name was Jared, and he has a program called Flip It.
Hey, really?
Yeah, I don't know if you ever heard of that.
No, I haven't.
He works with firemen and firefighters, and he has this coin that he gives out. So maybe I'll get you hooked up with him. But he has this coin he gives out, and it's Flip It, and it's this idea. It's not really an acronym like you have, but it's more the concept of taking these things that happen and negative and making them more of a positive.
I like that.
And he's got a really interesting story of his own, but I just thought that was an interesting connection. But the Scott Beebe and then Jared Buckley,
that is a cool connection.
And the Flip It, and just how I've worked. I never really worked with Chris at the same time, but or Shoreline at the same time. But that was just an interesting connection.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you see that pretty frequently as well. As I mean, in your world, there's probably technical issues by the hour that come about. That it could be frustrating, but you figure out, all right, how are we going to turn this into a solution? Or I don't know. That's a really cool. That's a cool story. You have to give me one of those coins.
Yeah, you could make it to a coin instead of But the reason that the other thing I brought up that with the business coach was the reason I felt comfortable going down that path with the vision and the business aspect was I knew that you guys were doing that work.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to kind of go into that a little bit.
Absolutely.
Because if I were to ask just anybody that, it might take you down a different path. But because I knew you've done a lot of work, I've seen some of the things that you post on social media, and so I can tell like you're putting work into that, and it's a lot of work to come up with something like this that is meaningful. A mnemonic device of sorts that you can use to help your team. So let's get into your role a little bit in terms of business development at Shoreline. Can you tell me like what is it that what's your role called again?
Yes. So I'm a business development manager at Shoreline for our commercial division. Context, Shoreline is one name brand where there's 3 separate entities.
Okay.
John likes to tell the story sometimes. The context to the 3 under one umbrella is that you have 2 doctors. They both went to med school, but they spent several more years learning about a specific industry, or not industry, but a specialization than the other, right? And that's the way we are. We don't cross pollinate the residential into the commercial, and so commercially, my role is just commercial. Even in a sales position, it's different than it would be residentially. So my role is plain and simple is to build relationships, and really have kind of my ear to the ground on what's going on in our community, and knowing about potential projects that are developing. Again, it all goes back to the building relationships. And how I know about projects developing is building relationships, like kind of like the one we've gotten, and that kind of helps allow us to figure out what kind of projects we want to chase. As I start learning about something, maybe over here in Beaufort, or I learn something about it in Savannah, and so my job is then to go take all of those and then present them to our team to figure out, hey, this is a project that we might want to chase. So
Yeah. Okay. And were you always, how did you get into the business development in construction?
Yeah. So relatively new to construction.
Okay.
I was, what brought me to Bluffton was real estate. And prior to that, I was in investment banking. So there's no real linear path of my jobs, other than the fact that it has been a stepping stone, figuring out what I enjoy and what I'm good at. My first job was pretty analytical, but I learned to problem solve. Then I moved to Bluffton, and it was in real estate, and it was highly relational. And through that, I actually got to know Chris and a couple of other people at Shoreline, and it wasn't long into really starting to learn about Shoreline. I pin them as a company, when I start to realize who they are and what they stand for, their principles, their mission. I was pretty intrigued, and was lucky enough to, I think Chris and I went and played golf one day, and
Okay.
Chris kind of explained what this vision for the commercial side of Shoreline, what he wanted to do with it. And he mentioned the idea. He's like, I need someone to kind of help push this thing and find out new opportunities for us to help us grow this thing. And so that was kind of how the opportunity was afforded to me to come work for Shoreline, in more of a sales role. But also, I say sales, but a lot of times I go back to my first job, and a lot of it is problem solving, right?
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of kind of how I got to Shoreline. But yeah.
Okay. And so, yes, let's talk about that for a second. The
Sure.
sales, business development. I've always, different people say different things about
Mhm.
those terms, or
Yep.
sales, business development, marketing.
Mhm.
What's your take on those three terms? Is it just synonymous, or is it different?
It can be. It's funny. I know people that have the same title as me, but completely different responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
They all share the same idea that it's generating more business, right? But I think the role itself can have different responsibilities. So I think we have a director of marketing, and her job is solely focused on marketing.
Sure.
Whereas mine will be less of figuring out where to put our name and how to grow our name and grow the brand, and more of how do I go find opportunities. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it's a great point. I think that sometimes they all run together. But yeah.
Yeah, I just wasn't a question. I wanted to maybe go down that for a moment. But,
Yeah. Well, I'd love to know your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I generally think similar. I just saw a post recently, and it kind of opened my mind to it a bit more. It's a guy named KP Reddy. He's on LinkedIn, but he's big in the AEC industry. But he said that there's sales. He kind of illustrated it as a Kool-Aid stand, since we're drinking Kool-Aid today.
Yeah.
But he said, sales is like the person up there just like, hey, come get some Kool-Aid.
Sure.
Right. Marketing is the person who like made the logo and made the cool stickers and sort of made the sign for that, right?
Yeah.
And that type of thing.
Yeah.
And then the business development is like, how can we collaborate with I don't know, maybe bikers or something riding through here and put our sticker on their
Yeah.
bikes or cars and make bumper stickers,
Yeah.
which you can say, well, that's kind of marketing, but
Sure.
and there's obviously integration between those three
Yeah.
things, right? Because sometimes sales and marketing, they go together, and business development. And I was like, wow, that opened my mind to the business development concept, that
Sure.
it really is a different aspect than just sales.
Certainly.
Whereas sales to me is like hand-to-hand combat. Like
Yeah.
you're out there making calls, you're emailing, you're trying to, you're actually closing the deal.
Yeah.
So now I'm not telling you what it
No,
is or
no,
anything.
but you're kind of spot on. I mean, they some of them run together and some of them are completely on their own. I would say that my business development opportunities are wildly different than my sales responsibilities. Now they work hand in hand daily. My business development is stuff like this and opportunities to go meet Stoney and meet other architects and engineers and getting lunch and learning more about their companies. That's the business development I think you're referencing to, is figuring out how to partner together with other AEC companies. But my sales then kind of kicks in where it's like, okay, now we actually have a client that's a prospective client that's interested in Shoreline. Well, then I do put on a little bit of the sales hat there to help them better understand why is Shoreline different. So
yeah,
those two flow more at Shoreline, at least. Those two flow together pretty fluidly. In marketing, I think that's a great way you put it. I mean, marketing, sometimes they don't get enough credit. They're
Sure.
what makes you a reputable brand, that when you talk about it, they've seen it, right? I think you do a fantastic job of it. I mean, you on LinkedIn, I'd go to say that there's not many people in our industry around here that haven't, seen something that you've posted.
Yeah.
So that's the marketing side of things, and then it affords you business development opportunities to then go meet with those people and learn how to partner. So I think it's a
Sure.
good way that they have different meanings and different roles, but they kind of all live in one space. I don't know.
Sure. And I have a great marketing team, which
Yeah.
Teresa does a great job for us of getting awesome logos
Yeah.
and awesome advice. And then I do a lot of the posting on LinkedIn myself, but
Which is phenomenal, by the way.
well, thank you.
If y'all have not seen this man on LinkedIn, you need to go check out his stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. To just post about interesting things going on in the community and things we're working on, and just thoughts I have.
Yeah.
It's 26 years of doing this.
Yeah.
So
I learn a lot from it. I mean, not only is it engaging material that you put out, I love learning about. Sometimes it always I'm like, dang, I wish we were doing that project. But I'm diving in and reading some of these articles, learning about structural stuff that I had no clue about. So
yeah, well, we got a project we're working on together.
yeah,
right.
Really excited about that one.
So we're actually wrapping up the design on that one right now, and it's going to be an interesting project right down here on Charles Street.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about that one a little bit?
Yeah, I'd love to. Really, really excited with the team we're working with. This is our first project working together, and I'm getting to work with Paul and you, and this is it's been something that Shoreline has really, really wanted to do for a while, was to start to expand north of the Broad. You look over here, just driving in, I see there's development going on everywhere, and but this is kind of a different project. This is not your
Right.
multifamily. This is a unique, and also has got a lot of eyes on it. So I'm excited about it. Do you want to explain? I'll kind of let you explain the project.
So it's Lisa is the developer,
Mhm.
and she's also an architect by training, but she's
Yeah.
from Colorado, so she's not going to be the signing architect.
Yeah.
But she's the design architect.
She's
if
the
you will.
retired, non-retired architect. Yeah.
And then John, he's a local architect that's going to be
Mhm.
doing the ceiling and doing the drawing, the construction documents. But it's right here on Charles Street, and when you turn in, it's right there. But it's going to be a tear down because, and I actually saw an article about it in the local
I saw that.
paper,
Yeah.
or whatever. I guess like the Allen Packet maybe,
Mm-hmm.
and I posted about it. So it's going to be a tear down because there was too many obstacles, impediments.
Yeah.
There was too many impediments to make it work. It was unreinforced masonry, CMU,
Mm-hmm.
and the size. We're in a high seismic area.
Yeah.
Believe it or not. I mean, I know you know that. I'm talking to the audience a little bit, but we're in a high seismic area, Beaufort, South Carolina, and so we're, long story short, it was too many things to overcome to bring that unreinforced masonry building to current codes.
Sure.
And so, but we're going to maintain the, I guess, concept or the basic principle or
Exactly.
I guess core of what the building is.
Yeah, playing to the historic piece of it.
Yeah.
That was the whole, that was the tension when this project started, was that, no one wants to go tear down a historic building. We don't either, even if it means a project. But there were things about it that, even from our angle, as cost implications, that was to do the work we would need to do in order to keep the first floor, the historic first floor of this building. It was going to be wildly inefficient. But yeah, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, no, that's good.
On.
You worded that much better than I was. So yeah, maintaining the historic aspect of it.
Sure.
And it's gonna have a nice look to, like, a curb appeal.
Yeah.
From the road, from Charles Street in Beaufort, and then it's gonna be using mass timber, CLT. So that's gonna be a nice aspect of it, because the reason that we like that as a team for this project is really the owner, Lisa. She really wanted something to give it a wood look, like something to give it a nice appearance from the inside.
Sure.
And so I said, this is an idea. I mean, it's not always the cheapest,
Yeah.
but it is an idea. And so we're gonna, it's the length of the building. We're gonna run the CLT panels, cross-laminated timber, the length of the building. And then we're going to have glue lambs that space, I can't remember the exact spacing, but something like, 8 foot, 6 foot on center to maybe a little bit longer, maybe I think 14 foot. So anyway, they're going to run the panels length of the building, and they're going to have these glue lambs spanning. So it's going to have a really wood look from the underneath when you're looking up, and you can see like a lot of, instead of just like stale steel and things. So it's going to have this nice look to it. So that's one aspect of it. And yeah, it's north of the Broad for you guys. It's opening up that business development relationship. I mean, when Lisa said, who are some people around here? I said, hey, I gave her a few names, and I said, reach out to these guys because they've been wanting to do work on this side of the river.
Sure.
So,
and I'll tell you this, apart from it being just a great project in general, what I appreciated about, and maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, but for one of the reasons that you put our name into it, and we had met, not long before, until that project started to develop, and the conversations around involving a contractor. But I told you that I think one of the things that we like to say is that we love building legacy projects. And you can slap that slogan across, any construction business, but it really does mean something for us. Is a lot of times the work that we are honored to be a part of is private developers, right? It's private capital, and so we care, about delivering a legacy for Lisa, on Charles Street and into this building that's got a lot of history to it. So I think that was part of one of the things that when we had the conversation with Lisa and David, was that we want to be part of the story of this building, not just, price something, build something and leave. We want to be a part of something and help build the legacy of this building and continue to add to it throughout this project. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting. It's perfect. I mean, really, it's what what I like to talk about is not just, episode 1, are you stacking bricks or building a
Yeah,
cathedral?
I love that one.
And so that's what I feel like we're doing here.
Yeah.
We're making Charles Street better. We're making Beaufort better.
Yep.
And not to say that there's not a lot of other things happening around. I mean,
Yeah.
there obviously is, but that's one brick that we're adding to make it a little bit better. And
Yeah.
that's really cool what we get to do in the AEC profession.
Totally agree.
So that's really exciting. But yeah, it's going to be a residential up on the 2nd floor, and then I think there's going to be some offices. So if you need an office space in Beaufort, check it out.
Reach out to Lisa; she would love that. I know she's starting to look for some things, but it will be such a cool addition to the downtown Beaufort area. There's talks of a coffee shop going in there, and or like a cafe and an art gallery. I know your daughter talks about art. Maybe it's like a space where, it might be able to hold local art. And so I think it'll have, anytime you talk about tearing down a historic building, I know there's a lot of noise from the community, and I totally get it. I think Jay even mentioned that on the podcast, that a lot of times we get a bad rep for just tearing things down and building new things. But like we're saying, I think this is something that will really be something that adds to the legacy of downtown Beaufort, and Lisa's heart behind the project is a really good place too. So no, it's definitely, I think, similar to you guys, we aligned with the client and her vision of what this project could be, and I think that's why we're on board. And I know that that's why we've got a stellar team too.
Yeah, and I mean, just to reiterate, we really spent a lot of work to maintain the building.
Yeah.
Even though, in my opinion, it didn't have a lot of good bones visually or structurally.
Mm-hmm.
I think the end result is going to be structurally a lot better.
Yeah.
And safer.
Yeah.
Which is what I do, is make buildings safe. And also, I like things to look good too, just because, I guess I have that creative side to me as well, believe it or not. But I like things to look good too. So, I mean, that's exciting that we're going to hit both. So I think overall, it's going to just meet, it's going to be better for the community.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, so was there anything, we really hit on a lot of great topics today.
Yeah.
We've talked about the vision of your company. We've talked about at least one project. Was there any other projects that you wanted to, what exciting jobs is Shoreline working on right now that maybe you want to highlight?
Well, similar to, it's, I wanted to throw that in there, is that we love Jay, love Frazier. A lot of times people think that we're all enemies in this space, and we love competing with our friends. And similar to Frazier's background, right now I'd say one of the busier areas for us is a lot of clubhouse work. We've got a lot of projects we're doing on clubhouses, whether it's renovations or new additions. So that's something that we've really got our hand in right now that we're really enjoying. We're enjoying working with the clubs and the committees that they form to help kind of facilitate these projects. It can be very high touch when you think about these clubs, and the members of these clubs they're paying dues, so they are very invested in what kind of facilities and amenities are, I guess, at their disposal, and so it can be very high touch. And so that, I would say, that's one area that we've excelled in lately, and that we're continuing to chase. And then there's 2 other projects right now that one we're finishing up, that if you're ever in Bluffton in the next, call it, maybe towards summertime, one will be finished up. It's called Ma Daisy's Porch.
Okay.
It's Billy Watterson is a phenomenal developer over south of the Broad that's done a lot of great projects over there. We've been very fortunate enough to work with Billy on several of his projects. We worked on one of the more common ones that people know about is Burnt Church Distillery. This gorgeous building, which I'm sure from a structural standpoint is I can imagine I would be in awe of that building. And then we finished up a renovation project, a large renovation project on the island called the Bank, which is on the south end of Hilton Head, and it is more or less like a brew pub, but it's blown up. It's been so cool to see the traffic it's generated over the last just almost a year now, of people when they're visiting Hilton Head get to come to this outdoor space and enjoy outside dining and one of their other brands. And so this last one we're really excited about working on, and we're trying to finish up, is a partnership between Billy Watterson and Bridget Frazier, where it's going to have a bakery, a restaurant, and then an event space. And it's similar to the Bank, a lot of outdoor space for people to come and hang out. And so I will say, if summertime you're looking for something to do, it's right in downtown Bluffton. It's a great spot to come grab dinner, hang out. Like I said, I always say that Billy's got this Midas touch. Every project he touches, it turns out to be a hit. So I feel that I'm confident that this will be a spot that people will want to hang out at. And right across the street, we're actually really fortunate enough to be working on another restaurant. It's called Greenhouse at May River. And it's going to be a Tapa style restaurant, but also the really cool spin on it is it's also going to have a speakeasy. So, the club work that we're doing, which is really what we're, enjoying doing right now. I've got a lot of those kind of projects. Then always has been our bread and butter as these more, boutique restaurants and distilleries and breweries that we really enjoy doing. So that's I guess my plug. If you're in the downtown Bluffton area and you're going down 46, you'll see a lot of blue tarps. That's kind of our when you talk about marketing. That's our we always talk about one of our biggest marketing things is people see our blue line, our blue tarps, fences, and They always say, it looks like y'all are really busy. And I always say no, but we're hungry for more.
Yeah. That sounds like some jobs that are the one you mentioned. I guess that was Ma Daisy.
Ma Daisy's,
the one. Yeah. Okay, and that one's ready to go. Like
it should be. Yeah, we are in the final stages of it. We've got probably I'd say 6 months left of just like really wrapping everything up and getting everything going before they're actually operational. So hopefully we'll turn the building over sooner than that, but I think it'll be up and ready to go hopefully by summertime. So
and it sounds like you really keyed on some of the jobs that you like working on. I guess the restaurant, the clubhouse. Do you find value in niching down, niche?
Sure.
I'm Southern, so I call it niche. But do you find value in that, or do you feel like casting a wider net is better? I mean, what's your approach or Shoreline's approach in that regard?
That is a phenomenal question. And the reason I say that is because when I first came on board, that was kind of one of my questions to the team was like, what are we chasing? Like, what are we going after? Are we good at something? Is there something that we should be, honing in on? So yes, to answer your question, I think the restaurant space is something that we really excel in. It's very detailed. You talk about, putting a commercial kitchen is no joke. That's what I've learned just being on the team. Is these are some very niche projects and niche, sub industries within the construction world that are very hands-on. We've been fortunate to work with great consultants there too, kitchen designers and kitchen equipment groups. So I think that's one that we've certainly done a few of them now that we really are chasing after. The club work, I think Jay touched on this when he was on. It's just, they're a big part of Bluffton and Hilton Head's makeup. I always had the joke when I was in real estate is wherever you are in Bluffton or Hilton Head, you could throw a rock up and it's going to hit one of two things. It's going to hit a realtor or a golf course. And so golf courses are a huge makeup of our area. And so it's really cool to have a your hand in on projects that are it's an evolving, these clubhouses that keep growing and growing and growing. Just when you think a clubhouse might be built out, they're adding on to something. So I think it's one of those things that we will always chase that kind of work. Obviously because it's there, but also because we've learned to realize it's a makeup of where we live, is the kind of the golf community.
Right.
So.
Right. Okay. So yeah, let me just ask you a couple more questions.
Sure.
I guess the next question, just a tip question, or like what's going well for you, like what's working for you lately in terms of whether that be individual, business, or like what's going well for you right now?
It's funny. I'll share this as a first. I'm just going to share what came off right, off the rip.
Yeah, go for it.
The head.
Yeah.
I shared this with Jack. So Jack was the my old Young Life guy that I was walking the campus of the Naval Academy with yesterday. And the funny thing is he had never heard of it, but it came from his dad. I heard this quote from his dad, and it's talking about in our world there are weeks that are necessarily just awful, and there are weeks that are incredible. And in this industry, like many other industries, John likes to say, we're never as good as our best day, and we're never as bad as our worst day. And that's helped me stay here in this industry, because like we've mentioned multiple times on this episode, is construction is by nature chaotic.
Right.
There are problems that arise. It's just the nature of the beast. And so being able to stay here helps me respond more appropriately, like this DPOM flip method. So that's my tip. I'm still so young. I'm still learning. And I certainly wish I'm giving that advice to him. I certainly wish I could follow it more true, but it's certainly something that I'm trying to adopt. Is it kind of takes the weight off, the anxiety off of each day. Scripture, enough trouble today, by not worrying about the next day. And so that's kind of something that right off my head that I'm working through right now.
No, I appreciate that. I think Jack really appreciated that as well.
Yeah.
Valued the time that you put into him and shared that with him. I mean, sometimes we don't think, like you said, you were so young, but I mean, I'm sure he sees you as a mentor and somebody who can really help him get ahead. And so
I appreciate that. And he's probably got way worse days. He's first year plebe at the Naval Academy. So I'm sure that, he has some really great days and has some really bad days. So it's kind of funny. It's totally a moment from the Lord that, tail end, even now I'm realizing, I'm like, wow, I bet that was something that's impactful for me that I'm sure that he'll be able to take, maybe harness that, going throughout his week. So.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting more from you. You're getting value from him, and we're getting value from each other right now. I mean,
absolutely.
I'm learning so much from you. And
well, I'll ask you, what's a tip that's kind of new for you right now that you want to share?
Man, I'm liking the I'm loving this, honestly. I mean, I may have to to use this.
That's yours.
I like the pause and research before I've communicated. So I'm like, how can I share this with my team?
Yeah.
But I'll tell you something else is I've got actually a post coming out tomorrow.
Good.
Okay.
I'm excited.
And it really is about a lot of what we've been talking about, vision, right? Like that's what a big part of who I am. I mean, the work that I did with, like Scott, BB and now my current, I mean, I've always had a coach, but the point of that is like having a vision, having a direction is so important. So, I have, biblical values, Christian values. That is my core. That's who I am. But having something that I can focus on is so important to me. I mean, God is my ultimate foundation, and I don't really like to necessarily bring that into every single episode or every single thing.
Sure.
But at the same time, it's who I am.
It's foundational. Yeah.
So how can I not talk about that?
Yeah.
So that's at a high level, but then at a like business level, of course we bring our biblical values into everything we do, but you have to have a vision like, okay, well, how is that going to apply to your work?
Yeah.
And having some curbs on the road to where like you're going, like we went to Pigeon Forge, Tennessee this weekend. You're going to Pigeon Forge, but you kind of need some curbs on the road too.
We call them guardrails at Shoreline.
Yeah, guardrails, so you don't like go off the road into the mountain.
Yeah.
And so having that vision and those values help you. Like this thing is tied directly to that. And so that's what's working for me is having a vision.
That is awesome.
Somebody helped me last week because I had one of those low days you were talking about.
Yeah.
Right. And it was actually my coach. I have a business coach.
Yeah.
And so, and he's like, "What's your why?" And I was like, "Oh man, that's right."
Yeah.
So I got to remember that, like what's my why? And so it helped me remember, like, this is one of my whys: enhance the world around us. But glory to God through excellence in structural engineering. That's our ultimate why.
Sure.
And so, sorry for the long-winded answer, but
that's good for me to hear. That's refreshing.
Yeah, that's what I do. That's what we do, and it's interesting because we have a multicultural company, and so it's like, okay, well, I don't want to like offend somebody or anything like that, but I tell people that when they come into the interview, like, this is who we are. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and beat people over the head with the Bible or anything like that, but this is who I am.
Yeah.
And so we're going to provide glory to God through excellence in structural engineering. And this is what 2096, we want you to on the bus doing that. Do you want to be on the bus? And so, and that's what we're about. So I guess the guest turn the script.
No, it's good to know. I mean, I think that's defining your why is so important. And similarly, Chris, operates Shoreline in a similar way. But I think it's cool when the values of your company and the values of 2096, they're day to day, but they're foundational to and what you believe in and where you find true fulfillment in. So I think that's really cool. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, definitely. So I think we've hit on the big question, the why question.
Yeah.
And also what's working for you. Was there anything else that you wanted to this is your plug opportunity, or just anything you want to bring up? Was there anything you want to hit on?
No, I go back to, I actually asked Chris and John today, I saw that question. It's a great question. And the simple answer is go back to the mission and vision, because I said, well, do we want to talk about growing, hiring, and we want to talk about new projects, being north of the Broad? And I think the mission and vision speaks for itself. We're a client-first company, that everything that we do is evolved around delivering peace of mind and living by our core values. And so whether that applies to someone being interested in coming to work for us, whether that means a new client, whether that means building new relationships, I go back to, this is our mission, this is our vision, and kind of to get on the bus, sentiment as well. We hope to attract people that enjoy that, and for some people, there are projects out there that are, that idea is not necessarily for everybody. Sometimes, you talk about what are the standards for general contractors. Well, did we build it on time? Did we build it on budget? Mm-hmm. And a lot of times that is important. I don't want to negate those things from being something that aren't important. But and we certainly want to build on time and on budget.
Absolutely.
But for us, there are our important things are, our core values and our mission statement. And I think in doing so, clients typically find, and people that come to work for us, is that we are, intentional relationships are important to us, and we're client, focused, which, as another, man of faith, you start to see there's a lot of things that tie back to who we are as a company and what we believe in. So that's my my plug of the last thoughts I'll leave with you. So. Okay,
awesome. Was there how do we find you and how do we look you up?
Yeah, so Shoreline, we're on. You can find us at www.shorecon.com, and then we've got we can have drop down below our LinkedIn to learn more about some of our projects, and our website. You also see we've got a newsletter too that shows more of kind of the projects we're working on, and obviously I'll drop my LinkedIn in below too if you ever want to connect and learn more about potentially. I'm more so, again, the reason I come on here is for the business development side of things. I think that what you're doing is awesome, and kind of connecting this AEC world together. And so I'm more interested in connecting with other like-minded individuals and companies out there. So awesome. I would say if you want to do that, reach out to me. I'd love to get to know you.
Awesome. So just as far as Shoreline, but also just you in general, and just talk about business development concepts and things like that. If you want to learn more about that, reach out to Andrew. So thanks for being on the show.
Thanks
with
for having me. Appreciate it.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening to today's episode of Enhance. And please leave a like, subscribe, or follow, and we'll see you next time.